What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. Quick match reaction. Want to talk about Arsenal versus Brighton. A really, really tough game. A game that we should have been going for 3 points for. We had to settle for 1 point. It ended 0-0, goalless. An entertaining goalless draw. But listen, let's break it down. Let's look at some of the positives, some of the negatives, and let's look at what's going to happen next. Because this game's done. It's finished. The most important thing is what can we do going forwards, right? So, starting with the positives. I like the way we set up. I like the team. Pretty similar team to what we played against Spurs, with Lokonga coming in instead of Xhaka. Looks like Xhaka's going to be out until January. So we've got an international break now, so it might not be super crucial right now for the next few weeks. That'll give him a little bit of time to start on that recovery and that rehab. But the Christmas period, I feel like we say this all the time for Arsenal, but the Christmas period is going to be tough. We really can't afford to be getting any more injuries in the up and coming games in the next couple of months, because Christmas is going to be jam-packed with games and we really can't have these guys out for prolonged periods of time. So Shaq will come back in January, but Lokonga comes in for him and thought he done really well. That part of the pitch for us was fine. You know, the back four, back five was pretty strong. Brighton were all over us. Brighton were peppering us in periods of the game. It kind of ebbed and flowed. There were periods of the game where Arsenal were in a lot of control and we didn't capitalise on those moments. And then there were periods of the game where Brighton was in control and they didn't capitalise on those moments at all. Overall, I thought we kind of cancelled each other out. If anybody deserved a goal, it's probably Brighton. So we might be a little bit lucky to come away with a 0-0 draw. But the reality is, you know, in football, if you don't score, you don't win games, and that's what it is. So they need a little bit of quality, but the way they set up was really, really smart. Our back four was very, very resilient. Ramsdale made a few unbelievable saves. Again, I think there's 3 clean sheets and the North London derby win. So I think only conceding 1 goal in 4 games. Really, really tough to drop him. And I think it's good having Leno there pushing all the time, as Leno is the quality to be a number 1 at a top 6 club, and so that's going to push Ramsdale to be better. And if Leno comes in at any moment, he knows that Ramsdale's there to take his spot, and that's what you need: healthy competition at a top football club. That's the most important thing. So that was quite positive. We rode our luck at times. I'm not going to say our back four's impenetrable, because it's not. We rode our luck at times, and Ramsdale got us out of trouble a couple of times. But the reality is, we didn't concede, and the partnership. Remember, we've got 2 new players in that back four at the moment, and Gabriel only came in last season. So, you know, these guys are still pretty new. They're gelling. Gabriel came in not speaking any English at all. They're gelling with each other and stuff like that. I think having an English goalkeeper definitely helps with the communication, and we see that a lot with Ramsdale being very, very commanding and making big saves. So that's super positive. On the break, Lokonga's great. Partey sitting there in front of the back four. Lokonga sort of in the pivot, with Odegaard floating around the 10. Odegaard, the game kind of passed him by a little bit. Lokonga and Partey spreading the ball out wide, and we're going into the wide men. So Smith Rowe and Saka are doing the majority of the ball carrying. And what Brighton done really, really well is use their wing backs to drop back really, really quickly whenever we were on the break and double up on whoever was wide, whether it's Aubameyang and Smith Rowe on Arsenal's left or Saka on Arsenal's right. They dropped back really, really quickly, and so what we couldn't do was punch that ball into Odegaard or Smith Rowe, who would be in this sort of 10 position, and start creating those triangles to break them down. Really, really good managing from Graham Potter. I'm not sure how long he's going to be at Brighton, because a lot of clubs are going to be interested in picking him up. I think he's got his tactics pretty spot on, knowing what Arsenal were going to do, and Arteta wasn't able to think his way out of that problem in the game. He might be able to think his way out of that problem for the next time we play Brighton, but in terms of in the game management, he wasn't able to think his way around it, and neither were the players either. I think what Arteta wanted to see was us run and fight through that. You could see him on the sideline constantly pushing the team to do more running and to be more aggressive, and they didn't really respond. They we were overrunning the midfield, but like I said, I think that was a tactical thing with the wing backs doubling up on our wide players and not allowing us to play football. So it was really smart from them. But on the break, Lokonga was good for us, but the ball just wasn't finding its way to Odegaard. He was very, very isolated, and we just couldn't thread the ball to him, and he wasn't able to dictate play. Smith Rowe started the game really brightly every time he got the ball, as did Saka. Saka had good feet, but not as good as Smith Rowe in terms of ball carrying, turning his man and running at the defenders. But we just we just couldn't break them down. We couldn't get that many shots off. When we did, it was sort of like half-hearted snatches of shots. It wasn't super controlled. But listen, this is the Premier League and this is what it is. And I feel like it was a game that the only positive I would say from the overall performance and the result is that this is a game that last season and probably the season before we might have lost. We might have given away a penalty. We might have just been rash, been sloppy. And actually, you know, we were much more composed than I've seen us be in the last couple of seasons. And we rode our luck. This is absolutely a game that we would have lost previously. And we didn't. We needed to. We got to a point where it looked like a goal might not happen. We rode the moments where Brighton were on top. And we had to settle for a draw. And like I say, it's a game that we could have lost easily with previous teams and previous defenders. And actually, we were able to grind out draws. And if we want to climb up the table, we need to be able to grind out draws sometimes. As frustrating as that is, that's the reality of football. So we were poor on the break. Like I say, I like the way that we set up. I like the substitutions as well. Ødegaard was missing from the game. Pepe comes on for him. And again, what Arteta wants is legs. We want somebody, you know, man for man. Can you stand somebody up? Drop a step over, drop a shoulder and beat a man, because the way that Brighton is set up, if you can beat your man, we can be in. Pepe wasn't super effective. He done okay. The ball when the game was sort of ticking over, but it wasn't anything sort of spectacular. And then late on in the game, or like shortly after that, Aubameyang goes off, which I like. Shows that although he's the captain, he's the senior striker, he's the main man, he's not unsubbable, which I think takes a little bit of bottle. And what we were hoping to see was Gabriel Martinelli come on, because again, those legs late on against the likes of Dunk and Burn, and if we can get the ball on the floor, play some football, maybe we can do something. Maybe he can run at them, maybe he can create something. Instead, Martinelli doesn't come on and Lacazette comes on, and I don't know if the thought process was maybe, I think at that point we started going for crosses more than like triangles, or maybe he can hold the ball up and bring others into play. But again, just didn't really happen. I thought it was definitely a game where someone like Martinelli, with his legs, with his attitude, with his positivity, could just drag us. I think more, not just ability, but more energy, could just keep us at that level of intensity all the way to the 90th minute. But, you know, he didn't get his chance, and I really do hope he gets his chance, at least off the bench against Crystal Palace, because they've got some good runners, and I think we need to match them and run against them, but we'll come to that later. So the subs came on, and they weren't super effective. They were energised, they tried to do what they could do, but I just think Brighton's tactics were very, very, very smart. Tomiyasu, we see him struggle for the first time. And actually, you know what, I'll jump to who I thought was the man of the match for me personally. I like Smith Rowe for Arsenal, but Cucurella's 23. He's Brighton's left wing back. He come from Getafe in Spain. I think £18 million they signed him for, and he's just joined Brighton this season. And he looks really, really class. Not necessarily tricky. Not what you'd look at as like a Riyad Mahrez type of player or a Hudson-Odoi type of wing back, but just the energy that he comes with to get up and down the pitch. He was up top in the final third, whipping in crosses, and when we broke on them, he was back in his own third, doubling up on with the centre backs and doubling up on Saka and stopping him from really being effective. And then as soon as Brighton broke, he was back up the final third again, and just constantly up and down and showing really what a wing back performance is all about, without necessarily having step overs and skill and all the fancy stuff, but just doing the basics and having an incredible engine, really, really up and down, sort of like what we have with Tierney. But I think he was probably man of the match, and Tomiyasu struggled with him a little bit. Obviously, we didn't concede a goal, so it wasn't too bad, and Tomiyasu sort of grew into the game, but that was the first time that you really saw someone giving him some problems. But still, overall, a good performance from Arsenal. Not necessarily a good performance, but a mature, needed performance. We need to be getting points on the board. I think we've only got 9 points on the board or something like that. We need points on the board, and if we can't win a game, we have to grind out a draw. That's just where we're at the moment. One of the other weaknesses I thought was set pieces. Pepe, I'm not a big fan of Pepe on corners. Pepe on the right-hand side corner where he can bend the ball inwards towards the keeper. I like that. Pepe on the left-hand side where he's bending the ball outwards. I think it was because he was on the left wing, but he was taking those corners. I think he was taking both. Not a big fan of seeing Pepe on corners. Far, far, far too often. Occasionally he delivers a good corner, But far too often, he's not getting it past the first man. He's not getting the elevation on it. And bear in mind, it's not tired legs. He didn't start the game. The guy's just come on. And I like Pepe. It's, I'm not hating on the guy. It's just constructive criticism. He's come on the pitch, fresh legs, can't beat the first man for a couple of corners. That can't be. That just can't happen. We just can't have this. We need to be, especially with White and Gabriel, and we've 2 seasons in a row we've brought in sort of marquee signing centre backs, and these guys are both capable of getting goals from set pieces. We need to be giving them the best possible chance. Yes, against Spurs, we played some good football, we played triangles, we got some goals, but we will need our centre backs and our big men to chip in with goals. Tomiyasu is also a right back, but very, very tall, very good in the air, very strong. He is somebody that is capable of scoring headers as well. So we need somebody who can deliver corners into danger areas. And Pepe does it sometimes, but it's not consistent enough. Defensively, in terms of set pieces, we rode our luck again. This was absolutely a game where we would have conceded corners last season, maybe even the season before. We would have absolutely conceded from a corner. We've got Smith, we've got Ødegaard, who I think is about 5'8", on about 7 foot Dan Burn, defending the corner. It's not good enough. I know he's got Ramsdale there for a little bit of cover, and I think he's just trying to distract he's just trying to not trying to beat him in the air. Ødegaard. I think Ødegaard's just there as a bit of a buffer between Burn and Ramsdale. For me, I wouldn't set up that way. I know they like to do this zonal thing, and you can't critique it too much because we didn't concede. But for me, it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence seeing that. And on another day, absolutely, Dan Burn would be looking at getting goals. And really, I think if we played this game again next week, I think Graham Potter would stick with his tactics, and I think Arteta would be the manager who needed to change his. And I think that tells you a lot about what you need to know about who's happier with their performance. 9 times out of 10, we play that game 10 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, Brighton win that game, and maybe we win it once. And obviously there's a couple of draws in there. So that's my wrap up of the game. That's where I think that we're at. We're going into the international break now. These guys, the running against Spurs was really, really good, but we need that consistently. We need to be outrunning teams. Like I say, lots of their players, Brighton's players, were outrunning our teams. Trossard was constantly up and down, and Cucurella, who was probably man of the match for me personally, was ridiculously up and down. We have a couple of players that do that, but we just don't look like we're at full fitness. I guess you could maybe spin that as a positive and say, look, when this team's at full fitness, it will be much, much better. But we need to be there now. Now's the time. After the international break, we have a game against Crystal Palace, and then we have Aston Villa. Aston Villa just lost to Spurs, so they're going to be looking for a reaction. And Crystal Palace is always a really, really tricky team to go and play, although we have a good record against them. And we will need strong, fit legs from everybody on the team. It's going to be really, really important that we overrun these guys and get these tactics right. And as I said before, we need to be getting 6 points out of these games. Draws are just not going to cut it. Going into Christmas and going into the Christmas run, we want to be a lot higher up the table. We want to be 6th, 7th maybe, in order to kind of be in a defensive position, holding off other teams. We want to be in control, and we want to get that control as quickly as possible. So that's where we're at. That's my match reaction. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you guys thought of the game. Crystal Palace, we have to see how things happen. We don't know how they're going to set up yet. We don't know how we're going to set up because it is the international break. But if you do have any thoughts, any predictions, drop them down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of the game. I really thought we would nick it 2-1, but it wasn't to be. So look, we go again. And yeah, let me know what you thought of the game generally, and let me know what you think about Crystal Palace. I'm really keen to hear that and how you guys would set up the team. And peace out.